Yeah, okay, everyone. Retire young, retire rich. It really depends on how young you are, whether you are going to retire young. But pretty much a plan to retire through property, I've done all the calculations in the last few months, and it actually will take you at least 10 years to build up sufficient properties to live off it. Right, strategies for retiring rich. It's all about leverage. Right? You can't just work your butts off and make enough money and then that's it. You'll probably drop dead before that by being worked to death in order to gain enough. But through the leverage of time, you can help to grow more wealth. Through the leverage of borrowing other people's money, like from the banks, they will help you leverage it up, because if you try and buy everything at 100% cash savings, it'll never get anywhere. And leverage of investing, investing your assets to buy more assets, plus the leveraging of your mindset. You need to change your mindsets that you can do it. And through knowing that you can do it, you'll find things become more powerful in controlling yourself. Right, retiring young. Time's an asset. You've got to realise that. There's only so much time to your life. You can't extend your life to whatever's already been worked out. Right? It can only be shortened. So the best thing is maintain a healthy body, right? Which obviously goes with your lifestyle. You know, if you're going to booze and take drugs and whatever else, and go hang gliding and jumping off parachutes and all that, you're pretty sure percentage-wise you are going to shorten your lives. Right? Maintain a healthy mindset. Mindset is the biggest factor I believe in for myself and for the rest of you. Is if you want to be rich, you've got to believe you're going to be rich. If you're just going to be poor, then that's what you'll be. So get your mindsets going, that you're all here, and you already have done that. You've already started, that you're going to be rich. Healthy actions. You've got to have the right actions. You can't go doing things that are dodgy or anything like that, because it'll come back on you. So whatever you do, it's got to be that you have a good conscience about it, right? Because if you end up going to jail, I'm sure that's going to shorten your life. Healthy conscience, karma. I'm a believer in karma. Whatever you give comes back. So that's probably why you find that myself and many of you likewise, whatever you give, if you're giving out good feeling, it'll come back to you, and you're rewarded with a longer life. If you give out bad karma, grumpy all the time, you end up with grey hair and you'll shorten your own lives. Right, so maintain a healthy life, and most of all, maintain a healthy you. Remember, time is money. You've always heard that, time is money, and don't go wasting time. The main thing is you can leverage other people's free time. What sort of people give free time to you? Real estate agents, for starters, right? Their time is free. It's paid for by somebody else. What other people? Insurance brokers. Yeah. But they're not going to help you anyway. They just insure and you end up paying for it. But you can see lots and lots of real estate agents never pay any of them. And even when you do buy a place, you still don't pay them. Right, leveraging of money from other people to buy their time. It's okay to hire someone to paint your place, paint your properties and that. Don't go painting it yourself. If you've got no money to pay them, then obviously you've got to do it somehow. Maybe get all your friends come around and have a demonstration on how to paint the place. They'll all paint it for you. Sometimes you can do it on a case of a dozen beer. Have a whole house painted. I've seen it done. And leverage a support group. If you've got a support group around you, use their information, their knowledge, and leverage it to help advance your own experiences and skill. It'll save you time having to do the hard knocks when it's all around you. That's why networking is quite important. Leverage your assets for time and money. All right. If you've got assets, so many people, baby boomers especially, they've paid off their house. That's it. They're not doing anything with it. They're not leveraging it to buy more properties if they only knew how. So, All this creates passive income. That's the ultimate thing. If you're going to leverage, you're going to do anything. It's the whole end result is do it if it creates more passive income. Leverage of finance, leveraging from banks, leverage from equity partners. If you don't have enough, get a partner or get a friend to go in partnership with you, and obviously leverage from other interested investors. Through the leverage of investments, use your assets, leverage it off. You've got shares, bonds, whatever, anything else, invest it out and buy more properties. Leverage off other people's assets if it's not your own, and leverage off other people's money. Through the leverage of your mindset, if you're mind rich, you've got to think wealthy. You've got to be healthy as well, and then obviously you got to allocate your time appropriately. This way you'll be wealth rich. It's just automatic. Retire young. Just remember, work on your business. Don't work in your business. Right? I learned experiences from when I had the tofu shops in the first few years. Had 3-4 shops, and I just couldn't cope with opening up another shop. So I decided I'll work on the business, and I brought in, franchised it out. And next thing you know, I grew to about 11 shops. So work on your business, not in it. Likewise with your properties, that's the obvious one. If you buy a property, don't constantly just work in it and do all the painting and do all the cleaning and do all the tiling. You might do it for a first time just to get the experience. But as you buy more properties, leverage your time out by getting other people to do it. You'll make enough money out of it, pay other people to do it. Makes your own life a lot better. Now, also have a goal. Right? You've got to know how to set a goal. And if you haven't got goals, at least have a bucket list that'll reward yourself. You probably know my bucket list is pretty much travelling a couple of times a year. Create a passive income through buy and hold strategies. Right? A lot of people are doing trades, flips. They don't create passive income. Right? It's all about building up the income so you can retire early. If you just keep working, spend it, it's not going to happen. So work once, do something creative and get it paid for many times over. What sort of thing that does that? Anyone can imagine? The obvious one is writing books, selling it off. More people buy it, the more books you write, but the more books you sell, you only write it once. There are a lot of other similar things. Franchises, open up a store, set it all up, franchise it off, pays you royalty for the rest of your life, or until the business finishes anyway. Any other ideas on passive income? Anybody?
Apps.
The what?
Phone apps.
Phone apps? Yep, that's a good idea. Sell it on the apps, even a million people at $1.50. That's what it's about. Yep, and your one?
Awesome phone apps.
Yeah.
You've got network marketing as well, right?
Yeah, network marketing. You're leveraging off everyone else to sell things, and you have a downline who you get a royalty off as you grow your network. Amway's a classic example of that. If you start at the top and as people down the line sell things, you pick up a royalty off everyone that's underneath you.
Would you recommend running that sort of business alongside property investment, or is it too time consuming?
The reward you get out of that, even network marketing, they had their history. They were aiming at a target market until it gets saturated. With network marketing, the first early ones were things like Mothercare, right? They sold to people who were having babies who were eventually baby boomers. Then it went on to things like Tupperware. As households expanded, they needed plastic things. Up from that, they had the Avon cosmetics. As baby boomers were getting older, they needed the makeup, right? And then in the 40s, they had these knicker parties, right? And then suddenly, about in the 90s, the Amway started for cleaning product and all this sort of stuff. The latest one now is probably things like selling off the, what would be the latest?
Telecommunications, ACN?
Yeah, selling through network. Okay. Trading in properties does not create a passive income. So there's a lot of people who are going out to trade are going to make money. They will make money, but they're only making just fast cash flow. That's okay for a while, but at the end of the day, when you stop trading, there's no passive income continuing from it. Your income stops as soon as you stop trading. It's really a job or a business, if that is what it is. Okay, if you set up it as a business and then franchise a business, which is a little bit different. Rent to buys, lease options, flipping, selling, they all give you instant cash flow, but does not grow your portfolio at all, right? And it doesn't give you a passive income. Well, talking about my situation from April 2003, during April 2003 to 2004, in 12 months I bought 21 properties. Then I went on to buy 30 odd properties by the end of 2007. But I'll talk about the first 21 properties because it was all done in 1 year. And rather than different years for different purchases, doubling it within different 10, I stuck to the first 21 properties, which all sort of accumulated together. Right, this is my first property, 4 bar 394 Onehunga Moor. I bought that for $192,000. Today's market value is around $400,000. And I'm being conservative, and it currently rents for $420 a week. 256A Mount Wellington Highway. The purchase price of that is $185,000. Market value today is around the $480,000, and the rental income is around $480,000. Now, you probably think that's only a 5% return. It's probably because in the last 6 months I haven't reviewed the rents. Now, Malone Road, Mount Wellington, this is all around the same similar areas. I bought this is my third property, bought it for $137,000. Today it's worth $340,000, more than doubled. And the rents is $365 a week. There's 269 Mount Wellington Highway, 5 in the block. I actually bought 4 of them over different periods. And cost me, the very first one was $140,000. And today's market value is about $340,000. Rents for $365 per week at the moment, a little under rented. Owaraka Avenue, I call this a townhouse. Got better rents because of calling that. And I bought it for $180,000, private sale at the time. Market value today is $400,000. It's more than doubled. Rents for $450 a week. 267 Mount Wellington Highway. This is one of the places that I was bought as a 3-bedroom. There were bikies in the place when I bought it, which is the reason why I got it so cheap. And I converted it to a 4-bedroom. Had it permitted at the same time. Put new concrete down here as well as cleaned it all up and painted it. Today it's worth $450,000 and rents of $490,000. Albrook Avenue. That's a standalone 3-bedroom house on a half a section. There was something wrong with the fencing down here. It's because the garage was built on it, but that's the way they subdivided. And because of that, I used that as an argument to reduce the price by another $5,000 at the time. The rent now for it is $450 a week. Barbary Avenue. This is one of 2 places that I've got outside of Central Auckland. I bought that off my mortgage broker for $138,000, and he got me the mortgage to buy it of about 10%, which is about $125,000. And I renovated it, did the paint up, had it revalued, and I gave it back to the mortgage broker, who sold me the place and refinanced it for more than what he sold it to me for. So it was a little bit sour on that. And I rents out for $330 a week, a little under rented. 28 Parker Crescent, the cheapest house I ever bought. I settled this in 3 days. It had this was the garage before, and the next door neighbours did me a favour by burning it down. The insurance gave me a new garage. Right. So neighbours are helpful at times. I don't do that. 293 Mount Wellington Highway. Paid 120 for this, and now worth 325, more than doubled, almost tripled, and the rents were 330. The reason why perhaps Mount Wellington was so cheap is on the socio-economic scale, it was probably not much more than Glen Innes and Point England, or a lot more than Point England, but it was low. And this is before the Sylvia Park shopping centre was built. As I was buying them, I was actually competing with the Sylvia Park shopping centres to buy the places all around there. As I mentioned before, the reason why they were buying properties around there is because everyone know why? Why would the shopping centre want to buy houses around the shopping centre?
There's nobody against them.
Yeah, because they didn't want appeals against the shopping centre, so they just buy them all out. All right, and they'd have more people supporting virtually. And the rents were $330 a week. This is next door. The access to this place, you can see the former. There's no, in order to get to this place, you had to go around the other side of the building to get to the front. And this used to be all flooded here as well and wet, and it was horrible. So by buying the first one, I had access to this one by creating a little alleyway there. Right, now, to get rid of the flooding, I concreted it high enough to push the water back into the neighbours. And now it's worth 330, probably a lot more actually. Well, that's where it came from. So all I do is just push it back by lifting the level of the ground. Yeah. 5 bar 269. This is 4 out of the 5 on the block that I bought. Paid 140,000 for it, and it's now worth 340,000, 200,000 more. 10 years later, and rents for 365. This is one there in Jolson Road, just at the other end of Panama Road, where I tell you not to buy. I actually sold this later for personal reasons, not for profit or anything. Purchase price was 250,000. Today's market value is 525,000, and currently rents for around 420 per week. They originally started as like this, and I converted it into from 2-bedroom to 3-bedroom, and so hence I had 2 3-bedrooms that I bought, which was originally 2 bedrooms. Cash flow is quite big on this. This is the back house too, and this is where the area I started putting a new bedroom. 1 bar 295 Mount Wellington High. Yep.
Did you go outside the building perimeter when you go to the bedrooms?
No, it was always internal. Okay. That particular area was a dining area, so it was easy to just put a wall across. Okay. The kitchen was quite big. I could have done it in there, in fact. 1 bar 295. It's right opposite the shopping centre. Originally it was a yellow colour, canary. I just repainted to that, and that actually increased the value, just the colour alone. And I haven't done much else to it. Oh, I did paint the inside walls, but the floor and the kitchens are all the same. Put a new stove in twice. Rents for 400 a week. Mataroa Road, my first weatherside weatherboard home, and it's never been a good renter. Purchase price 155. Today's market value is 350 based on the neighbour trying to sell it for 380, and the rents were 385 per week. Not a high rent, but still pays me money. This is in 256A. Bought this at auction, my first auction at the time, $225,000, and now the market value is about $430,000. Rents for $460 a week, probably could go to $500. It's a 3-bedroom, standalone. Kingsway Avenue, some of you have got next door neighbours to me. I bought this one back in 2003 for $184,000. Today's market value is around the $395 through the valuation of the other units at the bottom. And my one currently rents at $380, but I understand, Esther, yours is renting about four. Yeah. $30 a week. Oh, I should increase it.
With a kind heart.
Pardon?
With a kind heart to look after you.
Yeah. Okay, purchase price on this one. This is the place that I bought where the previous owner, or was supposed to be, they were buying it as a rent to buy, and he was about 2 years behind in his rent to buy with the actual registered owner. So I approached the registered owner and asked them, if they were keen to sell, and yes, they were prepared to sell at the price that was originally sold for, which was $195,000. The CV at that time was actually about $230,000. So I went to the person who was so-called buying as rent to buy, and he was about $10,000 behind. So I paid that $10,000 so that he could give it to the previous owner. Rents for $480 a week, and could go higher because it's a 3-bedroom place. And Ken's got places next door there. Yeah. Again in the same block, 405. This time I paid a little bit more, $155,000. The market value is about $340, and rents for $365. And my Otahu one paid $105,000. It's okay to buy outside of Auckland if it's really cheap enough. And today's market value is about $240, and rents for $295. So it's not a big renter out there, but still have made money out of it. Okay, the numbers. These are 203 price. That's the market values, what it rented for in 203, and the rents today. You can see the rents have probably only gone up about 50%. I believe the rents should be at 100%. So that's sort of telling me in the next 2 or 3 years, I'd expect big jumps in rents. Right, like 310, I'd expect that to go to somewhere around the 550 for a 2-bedroom place. And this one is 3 bedrooms. 280 then, I expect that to go to about to 550 as well, and so on it goes up. All right. Now, that's the other 9 to 16 and 21 properties. The total purchase price of all these first 21 properties I bought was $3.3 million minus my $180,000. So my mortgage on these 21 properties is around about $3.1 million. The market value today, 10 years later, is $7.4 million. So that gives me a nice profit of about $4.1 million. All right, and that's in 10 years. And my weekly rent in 203 was $5,000, well, pretty much $6,000. Today it's $8,300. So my rents have increased by $2,500 a week and growing. So given that, in 207, my interest rates, when it peaked at 9.57, was $296,000 per year going out, plus rates and insurance. So I was actually kind of losing that year, given that if you have 30 properties minus say $1,500 a year. So my income then was $308, so I wasn't making much money. In fact, I only made $12K in 207. Now, by 2015, given that I haven't increased my mortgage anymore on the 21, I allow for a 7.5. That's your average interest rates over a 10-year period, right? So that's basically going to cost about $234,000 per year going out. So given that 207 I wasn't making any money, right? By 2013, I now have a surplus rent of $240,000. So if my mortgage goes up to 7.5, because what I'll do is I'll just leverage it off or fix it for so many years. Probably won't even move on it until it gets to about 6.5%, because I still have a lot of surplus. My capital gains over the 10 years is $4.1 million, and my surplus rent today is about $240,000 per year. Now, I worked out that if the interest rates go up from that to that, I'm still well ahead by, it'll increase to about 50,000 more. So I'll still be 200,000 ahead in a couple of years' time, plus any rent increases that happen in between. All right. How many properties do you need for retirement? That's the big question. All right. Anyone work out how many properties they're going to need? Well, like for instance, yeah, okay. So who'd want 100,000 at least on today's basis in 10 years' time? You want 100,000, right? Working on round figures. If you got 100,000, how many properties do you need to get 100,000? 18. Huh? Have you done the maths? Yeah. Quickest way to work it out, and you can probably do it in your own heads. Okay, if you've got a freehold unit, which costs you about 350,000, how much rent are you going to expect out of it? 400 a week, let's say?
21,000 a year.
Yeah, say 20,000, round figures. Now, if you're getting 20,000 a year from that unit, how many 20,000s do you need to get 100,000 a year? 5, exactly. For every 100,000 you want, you need 5 properties. Yeah.
Ron, you're talking about gross or net income?
So just talk on gross, because everyone's got different tax rates. If you're,
There's also expenses on those properties, even before you pay tax.
yeah,
There's normally about 2% on
yeah,
So
you need 6 freehold ones. All right. So we assume that the place is freehold, and you're getting 21,000, then you'll be right. You need at least 5 places, maybe a bit more, but just figuratively, we don't need to work out if it's 5.3 and a half houses or something. It's just exactly around 5 houses to get 100,000. Yep.
So that 5 properties and 100K is per year or total?
You just need to own 5. If you want 100,000 a year, you need 5 or 6 properties freehold on today's basis. Right. So the next calculation is, what if you got a mortgage on it? Right. So it sort of made me realise, how many properties do you really need to retire on? It's not that easy if you're just an investor who doesn't know what they're investing in or why. So you got to, in order to get there, you need to plan at least a 10-year plan, right? Because why 10 years? One cycle, and at least you've paid off. If you don't buy any more, that is, then you've paid off half your mortgages. Your loan to value is suddenly 50%. So if you still do nothing for 20 years, what's your loan to value ratio? It'd be 25%, 75-25. Right. So just throw some numbers at yourself. So you've got to plan it for the next 10 years, how many you want to buy. The more years in the planning, of course, the greater your wealth will be. And have a goal for how many, and a strategy is how you're going to get there. That's the only way you're going to get there. You just can't just go buy because I need that many without realising the maths. Right, if you have a goal for 12 months, this is setting goals. You really need to set few goals. Have a goal for 12 months, and after each 12 months goal, make another 12 months goal. Right, and have a 2-year one. This way you reassure yourself that you're on track for the next 10 years. After a 2-year goal, reassess your next 2 years after that. Have a 5-year goal as well, so that you know you're at the halfway point or you're moving towards it, and then reset your last 5 years. So you've got pretty much 3 goals that are happening, a 1-year, a 2-year and a 5-year. So by renewing, you're always on track. So you ultimately have your 10-year goal, and you plan your 10-year now, how many you want in 10 years. Right? Brad Sugars pretty much says, unless you've got 50 properties, you'll never be rich. Okay. Now, some of us who are my age are going to get another passive income in 2 months. I haven't got time to wait for 50 properties. But that's why in 2003 I went crazy and bought 21 properties and got to 30, and I figured that would be enough.
Ron,
Yeah.
our goal is to sort of be in a position where we can buy a commercial property so we can get that passive income that you're talking about, because we don't have any freehold properties. Is that not a strategy that we could pursue?
Depends on how many years you've got left to retirement. 20 years?
For me, 13...
30 years?
I don't know.
Well, it's leverage again. You want to buy at 95% and you'll get there a lot quicker. You really will, right? You'll get there a lot quicker, and then suddenly it becomes slower after that. So you've got to go quick first, and these numbers will show you later. So if you're going into commercial, right, you're going to have to start with a 40% deposit, right? And it's harder to top up. Okay. Yeah, especially in the recession, whereas you can always rent something out by just dropping it $20, which is $1,000 a year, out of say 20,000. It's not a big deal. All right. So I would have hesitation if you already have sufficient properties for your retirement. Then I would be definitely investing in commercial, because I just want to be hassle free.
I sent Michael Yardney a message the other day, and I said, how much asset base do you need in residential properties? And he said at least $5 million worth before you should consider commercial property investment.
Yeah. So how many is $5 million worth of properties? Everyone can work it out? 300 a pop. 13, 14, 15, it's about 16 properties, which is pretty much what we're talking about tonight. Yeah, he's accurate. So if you are having, how many properties do you want for retirement? Well, remember, it's easier to plan to be wealthy in 10 years. It's very hard to plan to be wealthy in a year, all right? Have a flexible starting point, because obviously if you start and then you're rigid on it, you're going to find, oh, it's not working, and you give up. If you have a flexible one, then you can always start at different angles, right? Try different things. If one way doesn't work, try another way. If that way doesn't work, try another way. At least once you get going. But the point is, when you get to the end, you've got to be on focus to get there. Right? And the other thing too is important to reward yourself as you reach a different point in your goals. Right? For those who are super investors, you should be having a holiday and firing off down to wherever you want to go and enjoy life. It's not about just working to do properties all the time. All right? Got to enjoy yourself. If you have to buy a Louis Vuitton handbag, go for it. Okay. And beware of going down distraction lane. So many of us do that. Distraction lane, it means buying commercial properties, perhaps. Yeah. All right. Okay. How many properties to the retirement? Well, you've got to have rules. So some of the rules is you've got to change some of your habits. If you're one that likes nice, shiny things all the time, forget it. If you're someone that always wants the latest Apple iPhone, you might have to change that, all right? Unless it's working for you. A bit different otherwise if it's a business. But if it's just a personal thing, fine. Look at your capital and invest it to create more income. Spend only your income, but don't spend your capital, all right? Buy only goods that grow in value, that make you more money. All right. It's okay to buy quality things, but don't buy cheap stuff that's going to be out of date, like an iPhone. Negotiate everything you do, all right? Just negotiate it, because if you can save 10% on everything, suddenly you've got 1 year's income free after 10 years. So negotiate everything. And that 1 year's income that you might save, you're leveraging it to create maybe another 10 years free. And stick to your goals. Now, based on 100,000, some of us probably more likely want 200,000, but this thinking is based on 100 years today, 100,000, and that would be inflation-proofed against whatever it is tomorrow. So you don't have to worry, well, tomorrow might be 500,000. All right, 5 freehold properties to get that at 400. All right. Now, you need 10 properties at 50% LVR to get 100. And then you need 20 properties at 75 and 25 properties at 80%. Those who are buying on 90%, you'll need actually 50 properties to get to 100,000 in 10 years. Yeah. So you,
In 10 years, the value that LVR will go low, no, reduce as the property value go up.
well, if you bought it on 100% finance, it'll be half paid off through inflation, and it'll be 50% LVR in 10 years. Right, but you'll need 10 of these properties, so that half will go into the mortgage and the other half will go into your passive income. Right. Now, this bit about someone say, well, I can sell off half of it to pay off the mortgage. That'll probably be the stupidest thing you can do. Right? People plan to pay off half in their retirement. No, don't. Because whilst you've got 10 properties all growing and doubling every 10 years, I'd rather have 10 properties doubling every 10 years rather than just the 5 properties half paid off doubling. Because if you pay off half, you'll actually find you'll have the same income. Right? 10 properties and only getting half the rent, or 5 properties and getting the same rent. It's why sell it off?
And you're not getting tax relief on the mortgage.
Exactly. All right. And likewise as it grows. But the figures actually suddenly change. In a 10-year period, a property at 80% LVR would have reduced to 40%. But that same property in 20 years, at 80% LVR when you first bought it, will have reduced to 20% of the debt. In other words, you kept the debt, but it would probably have gone up 4 times or 5 times. In 30 years, your debt would only reduce to 10%. And in 40 years, which is probably most of our possible working life, your 80% LVR, if you bought the place at 25, would be 5%. Now, what does that mean? Your income would come to $300,000 a year based on the 10 properties. Is it?
25
Oh, based on 25 properties. Thank you. All right, based on 25 properties, you'll have $300,000 a year in 10 years' time. If you go back to my graph, it's pretty close to what I'm getting now in 10 years' time. I think mine was about 245, and the boom hasn't quite doubled the rent yet. In a 20-year period, you'll be on 400. So it actually is, it pays off. You're actually not getting a similar type of increase. Right? It's not compounding like it's actually on a reducing scale every 10 years. So logically, you should keep on buying. Right? Mathematicians, does that work out to you guys? Yeah. I thought originally, as each 10 years goes, 300, 600, 900 million bucks. But when I did the numbers, it actually is less. So I guess that's telling me I either stick to this or keep buying. Property 101. You've got to have buying rules. So you've got to invest in sound areas, right? Because whilst you're growing your cash flow, you need to grow your capital growth. And if you bought in the cash flow areas to start off with, fine, but as you climb up the ladder to win the game, you need to get better properties, all right? So most of you here are being coached. You don't need to start at the bottom of the ladder. You can start sort of almost halfway up the rung. Now, invest in sound areas for the longer term. That's really what it's about. You just want good properties when you're 65, if you get there. And invest without gambling or speculating, right? Remember, speculating is gambling. So invest your money, not gamble your money. Yep.
But every time you buy a property, you are always speculating for the price increase anyway, right?
Yeah, that's right. But you're doing that to get your next one. You want to buy it to know that you're going to get your money out. So if you have a buying rule is that I'll buy it, but I only want to buy it if I can get my deposit out in at least 3 to 6 months. Right. Because you're going too slow otherwise. You've got to get 25 properties if you want to be wealthy. And even 25 property, isn't that fantastic? You know, 300,000-400,000 a year. On today's basis, it's not bad, but it's not super wealthy. Okay. I guess most of you would be happy with 400,000 a year. Raise your hands. Who's not healthy? Happy. Look, I tell you now, if you got grandkids, 400,000 is not going to be enough. And don't forget, you have more than one grandkid. You always end up with some families, quite a few. Cash flow to pay the mortgage. All right. Invest with cash flow and profit in mind. So you don't just buy for capital growth only. You've got to have cash flow in mind, because the cash flow pays the mortgage. But the capital growth is really where the massive wealth is. Now, when I talked about all this, I guess I should have worked it out, that my properties in 10 years have grown to 4.1 million net. Right? If my properties double, they'll grow another 10 million. So the calculation is a little bit different as against cash flow. And if the redoubles, then they'll grow 40 million. But on today's basis, it still compounds down. Like the very first house I bought, $15,000 in Inkerman Street in Onehunga. Today that's worth about 700,000. 700,000 is only an average home. 15,000 in 1969 was an average home. That's pretty much, what are we looking at, 45 years or 40 years. So in another 40 years, a $1 million house will be worth how much? About 50 times. It's going to be worth about 50 million. And that's just going to be an average home. Buying rules. Don't buy on emotion. Buying on emotion, you're going to end up with an overpayment. That's what always happens. If you buy on numbers, then you always result in a profit. Does luck come your way? I think Albright can explain that. I don't know why everyone went to look at that place. What happened? I think Albright was the last to look at it. Were you?
I actually I didn't expect it. I was looking at something next door, and then I met Rachel in front of the house, and she said she's looking at that one. I said, okay, I will look as well. And I said, okay, I'll be back up. I didn't actually expect it.
2 bar 90 Victoria Street. Right. What happened, Rachel?
I bought the 448, so I pull out.
You were. So, well, this is luck, but you had to be there, all right? Luck will come your way, but you've got to be there for it. All right?
Actually, I think we're all lucky because Albright follow you and I call you to have luck. That's a group of you.
Yes, that's right. So, if you want luck, luck just doesn't fall in front of you, all right? It doesn't come out of the sky. You actually got to be there and create and work it. Then the luck will come your way. So luck isn't just like people think it is. You can be lucky if you focus on being lucky. That's why some people, you always say, wow, they're always lucky. I guess these people just walk around feeling lucky all the time. And it just happens, right? Think about it, mindset. But luck only comes your way if you look for it, and by looking for it, then you will find it.